face it, client perceptions are hard to understand. People can be a little quirky. They act differently, sometimes they don't communicate everything that's on their mind. And quite frankly, sometimes we don't listen as well as we should. The net result is that we have gaps in our understanding. In our research, we found 86% of account teams have significant gaps in their understanding of their clients' perception about working with them. So here's what we did. We went to individual clients and asked them to tell us what they think about working with specific providers. We benchmarked them on those 6 dimensions of trusted advisor relationships. We measured practices. We captured all kinds of data about their perceptions relative to what they can get elsewhere in the industry. We then delivered those results to the individual sellers, the account teams. And we asked them, before they were allowed to see what their client said, to tell us what they thought their client was going to say. With these 2 sides of the coin, we were then able to measure the gaps. If you think about it, when we measure what the client said, they could either rate their account team high or low on various practices and perceptions. And when we asked the account team what they thought their client was going to say, they could think their client was going to rate them high or low on those exact same perceptions and practices. 4 patterns begin to emerge. Sometimes there's what we call an agreed strength. The client said their account team is doing really well on a certain practice, and the account team thought they were going to get scored very well on that practice. That's an agreed strength. Everything seems to be working. Sometimes there were agreed weaknesses. The client said they weren't doing this practice very well, and the account team knew they weren't doing it very well. Probably something they're already working on, how to improve their skills, how to improve their delivery, how to do a better job of that specific practice for that specific client. In both cases, agreed strength and agreed weaknesses, there isn't much of a gap between what the client said and what the account team thought their client was going to say. The other 2 quadrants get a little bit interesting. Sometimes there was what we called an undervalued advantage. The client rated the account team very high on certain practices, but the account team thought they were going to get a low score. Now we might think, hey, that's not bad. We're underestimating what we're going to get scored. So here's what happens when you have an undervalued advantage. At the end of the day, you leave growth on the table. You're often not priced for value, you've lost cross-selling opportunities, you don't push for the referrals, and you're missing opportunities to strengthen the relationship and grow your revenue streams. Of course, the one we get worried about is what we call blind spots. Areas where the client says we're not delivering, yet we think we actually are. We're not trying to get any better at this. Meanwhile, the client's not getting what they need. Blind spots risk the entire account. We become commoditized, the account becomes higher cost to serve, we get surprised when our forecasts aren't accurate, and if it goes far enough, we lose the account. As I mentioned earlier, 86% of the account teams had significant gaps in their client perceptions. 86% were in those 2 quadrants, undervalued advantages and blind spots. And here's the real rub. Because they didn't understand how they were perceived, every strategy and every plan they built to work with that client was by definition wrong, because they built it on a misunderstanding of their strengths and weaknesses. The inefficiencies just continue to pile up. So in summary, we all have gaps. Undervalued strengths leave growth on the table, while blind spots lead to missed forecasts, client surprises, frustrated teams, and upset management. Minding our gaps is critical for the success of any client strategy we're trying to put into place. Thanks for watching.